Hi guys! Hi, happy Friday! As always, it is recording day for Hidden Moments Lifestyle. I'm super excited. I'm actually doing today's podcast and video a little bit like a training. So I have some slides for the video version. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be seeing the slides. But if you are listening to the podcast and you're like, okay, I really like this, but I want to see the slides, head on over to either the Facebook group, Hidden Moments Lifestyle Facebook group, or to my Hidden Moments Lifestyle YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the full training with the slides. So today we're going to talk about fear. This one is so super important. It's something I hear all the time. It's one of the biggest things that holds me back, that held me back in the past, that I had to get past in order to move forward. And even, to this day, because it always is part of our journey to some extent. So it's even something that I'm working on to this day. So I think it's a really important thing to talk about. It's come up a lot within the 5-day challenge that I just hosted within the Facebook group, but I hear it with clients all the time. I hear it with friends, family, people within the Facebook group. It's a common thread that impacts all of us. So I really want to address it today. So I will share my screen with you so that you can see the slides for those watching the video version. Okay, there we go. So you should be able to see the slides now, and we will get started. So we're talking about fear. So why are we talking about this today? Like I said, this is something that comes up all the time. I hear it in the Facebook group. I hear it with clients, family, friends, and it's something that has really impacted me in the past as well. So I really want to address it. Additionally, fear comes out in so many different ways, and it gets in the way for so many of us in reaching our potential. And fear can come up in like these really sneaky ways, and so I want to address some of the different narratives that might pop up for you that are actually pointing at the same root fear. And if we don't take care of our fear, if we don't address it, we don't acknowledge it, it actually grows. And so when we ignore our fear or when we cater to our fear, we're just allowing that fear to build momentum and to keep growing and holding us back. And so it's really important that we actually address our fears, address what's happening behind them, kind of calm them a little bit, and then move forward. So that's what I want to do today. So fear is a huge topic, and I completely acknowledge that. It's huge. There are so many different types of fears, so many ways that fear shows up in our lives. So I want to kind of draw a little bit of focus in on what I'm actually talking about when I'm talking about fear for the context of this specific training today. So here are some things that I hear all the time, and this is the type of fear that I want to talk about. So I hear from people, I can't do X, Y, Z because people might not like me. I can't do X because I might look stupid, or I can only do X when I'm an expert. And that one is really key because a lot of our fears come out as can'ts. So we say like, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. But what can be even more sneaky than that is to say, well, I can do it, but I can't do it yet. So that kind of tells your mind, like, I'm working on it, I'm building to it, but I'm just not there yet, when in reality, it can kind of turn into a procrastination, and I will address that further in the training, but I just want to kind of address it just a little bit right now, right off the get-go, so you can see, even though the word can't isn't in there, you still are basically getting to the point of, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to put it off. So I just wanted to address that a little bit. And then newsflash, all of these things, they sound totally different when you say them out loud, like saying that you can't do something because people won't like you, or you'll feel stupid, or you'll fail and you'll fall flat on your face, or because you're not an expert yet. The reality is all of these different fears, as different as they might sound, they come back to basically saying the same fundamental thing. So whether your fear is of not being an expert yet, your fear is that you're going to fall flat on your face, you'll look stupid, you won't be liked, that comes back to this one extremely deeply rooted fear: what if I am not good enough? And that is huge. All of these fears come back to that one fundamental question: what if I'm not good enough? So that's what I want to really address today. And I want to take a fair bit of time and talk about this because it's actually huge. It's a huge topic. It's a huge underlying fundamental fear that so many of us deal with on a day-to-day basis, even if we're not recognizing that that's the fear that we have. Like, we might be living up here thinking that our fear is actually just that we'll look stupid, when the reality is it's so much deeper than that. It's so deeply rooted within us. So however it might come out for you, that fear is basically your inner bully or your ego coming out and saying, what if I'm not good enough? And I say inner bully or ego, really those are deeply interconnected and arguably one and the same, but I hear them referred to kind of separately sometimes, so I'll keep them separate. But basically your inner bully, your ego, is taking that fear and saying, what if we're not good enough? What if I'm not good enough? Then what? Like, this is a huge problem. And it gets to a very fundamental place in us where we feel very threatened. And why? Because your inner bully is perceiving a risk. And as we know, our inner bully hates risk. And whatever it is that is sparking that risk, it goes back to the fear of not being good enough, regardless of where that fear is being sparked from. So why does not being good enough pose such a threat for us? Because really that's what we're feeling. We're feeling threatened. And that is because of some very fundamental fears, fundamental threats to your well-being, even your potential safety. So 3 examples of why this poses such a threat to your inner bully is, first of all, potential isolation. So this fear that you will be left alone if you aren't good enough. So if you try something and you fail and you fall flat on your face and people don't like you because of it, people abandon you, you're going to end up being alone and isolated. That's your fear. And that is a very scary thing for us, not just because of the emotional connection that we need to people, but because at a very basic level, our survival used to be dependent on having others around us. And so that threat, it really comes back to a very deep emotionally rooted issue, but also to a very fundamental and basic threat. So potential abandonment, very similar. It comes to the end result that you will end up alone. And then the third is that if you try something and you fail, or if you are not good enough, there is the potential that you won't be able to live your soul's true calling. And so it's easier for us to put something off or to kind of take ourselves out of the game and say, you know, I'm not doing this, I'm not taking that risk, because it's much more painful if you take that risk and you fail and then you feel like you can't live your soul's true calling. And so that also is a very deeply rooted fear, because if you came to this place where you feel like you have a very deeply rooted purpose and then you find out you can't do it, well, that impacts your entire life. And so that is a huge threat as well. So, let's dive even a little bit deeper here. So not living out your true calling, not being enough, is especially important when we talk about needing to be an expert in order to start something. And so this one is really, really common, and that's why I want to address it. It came up for a lot of us in the 5-day challenge, and it's something that actually stopped me from being a coach for several years. And then even when I started to technically practice being a coach, I wasn't fully putting myself out there as a coach because I was afraid, just like anyone else. I was afraid that I would fail or that I wasn't good enough. And so I kept telling myself, I'm going to wait until I'm an established expert in this field before I actually take the risk of becoming a coach. And at the surface, this sounds like a very responsible thing to do, right? Like, why would we step into a role if we're not ready for it? But what I actually find is that for most of us, when we're using this, it's an excuse. It's not the fact that we aren't qualified. It's that we think we're not an expert. And so often this just becomes a form of perfectionism. And realistically, when we use it as a form of perfectionism, it actually becomes a form of procrastination, because what you're really saying is that I'm not yet an expert. I can kind of see what this expert is, so what I need to be before I'm ready to fully step into that role or task, and I need to get there first. And then the closer you get, the scarier it gets, because you're about to have to take an action. And then we say, okay, actually, you know what? I'm going to move the bar of what an expert actually is. So initially I said an expert was this, but now I'm getting really close and I'm getting a little bit nervous. So I'm going to say actually an expert is even more qualified. I need something even further. I need another certification. I need to read more. I need to practice more. I need to do more in order to become that expert. So that bar of what an expert is, it just keeps moving further and further away. And then you start to feel safe again, because you don't actually have to take that big, scary action of whatever it is you wanted to do. But you're also not totally saying that you'll never do it. And so you don't have to feel any of the pain around not living out your soul's true purpose, because you're not saying it's never going to happen. You're saying you are going to do it, just not yet. But the problem with that is that even though you're telling yourself that eventually you will do it, you're not. You're holding yourself back. There will never be that absolute perfect time where you 100% feel like an expert. And this is not to say that we shouldn't be qualified when we take something on. I 100% and I believe in being qualified. Totally 100%, I believe in being qualified for whatever it is you're doing, whether you're a coach, whether you're owning a business, whether you are, stepping into the corporate world, whatever it may be. I totally agree that you need to be qualified. But what I'm saying is that we take it a step further and we say there's qualified and then there's an expert. And I need to be at the expert level before I even begin. And that is how you know the difference between it being a practical, I need to be qualified, versus the perfectionism of, I need to be an expert. So those are important distinctions to make. And when it comes to this excuse that we use for ourselves when we say we have to be an expert in something, I really want you to ask yourself a couple questions. The first one, it goes back to the issue of qualifications. Am I actually qualified to do this, but I'm holding myself back? So am I allowing my fear to hold me back? And that's really what you're doing. Like, you have to own the fact that you are allowing your fear to be in the driver's seat. Because if you're not taking ownership, then it's going to be really hard for you to move forward. So you need to learn to own that. Am I making the conscious decision, or unconscious, could be unconscious, but am I making the decision to allow my fear to hold me back? Is that what this is? Am I qualified but not an expert? If I am, I'm probably allowing my fear to hold me back. 2, is my perfectionism actually procrastination or an insecurity? So sometimes perfectionism is kind of masquerading as high standards, when in actuality you're procrastinating and you're feeling a little bit insecure about something. And so I'm all for having, nice high standards. I think that's really important, and it leads to excellence. But I also believe that we can reach a point where our standards are so high that they're impossible to meet, and that it's actually a sign of an insecurity that you have, that you think you're not good enough, and so you keep raising the bar. So ask yourself, is my perfectionism a high standard that I really should meet, or is it procrastination or an insecurity? And then finally, and this is really super important, this is probably one of the most important questions. Could I accept good as being good enough if it allowed me to live my soul's true calling? That is really important. So what I mean by that is that if you are using your perfectionism as an excuse to not live your soul's true calling, that is a huge cost. That is costing you a lot. So can you rework things, change them a little bit so that you could accept good as being good enough, because it will allow you to live your soul's true purpose? So even using myself as an example, I love being a coach. I love making videos. I love doing my podcast. I love doing the trainings. And I have lots of other dreams about what I want to do as a coach that I know I will do as my business grows. However, that being said, if I continued on the path that I was on, where I had to be a 100% expert in the field before I stepped into the role as a coach, I would never have started as a coach. It's that simple. I wouldn't have started. The path that I was on with that type of perfectionism, it would have completely stopped me from ever becoming a coach. And part of the reality of that is that when you don't even allow yourself to start, you're not getting the absolutely critical experience and lessons that come from learning something on the job. So you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage if you're stopping yourself from living your soul's true calling because you're not yet an expert. So that third question is extremely important, and I want you to think about it really deeply if this is an issue for you. So requiring yourself to be an expert before you start something is causing you to miss out, and it's causing you to miss out in a variety of ways. And I just want to really drive that home. I know I just mentioned it, but I want to drive it home for you so that you can see that although you're perceiving all of this risk when it comes to taking that next step, there's also an equal or even greater risk of not taking that step. So if you're requiring yourself to be a true expert before starting, you're going to miss out on the magic of your intuition, because you're constantly in planning mode, you're constantly strategizing, you're constantly looking forward, and you're not allowing your intuition to guide you. You're completely silencing that intuition. And guys, there really is magic in your intuition. Your intuition can tell you a lot. And so I love you, and I don't want you to miss out on that incredible power that comes with your intuition. So that's really important. The second is that you're going to miss out on the potential lessons that come with stepping out of your comfort zone. You're going to miss out on all of the lessons that come with not being perfect. And I know that that's scary when you think about stepping out of your comfort zone, when you think about potentially failing at something, when you think about looking silly or whatever it might be. I know that that's scary. It's scary for me too. So I get it. I really do. However, there is a huge lesson in all of those things, in all of those little so-called failures. And I really would love to get away from using the word failure at all, because I think it's more learning. You don't fail, you just learn. And then you try again. You don't stop, you try again until you're able to find something that really works for you. So you're going to miss out on those really important lessons if you don't let yourself step out of your comfort zone. And finally, you're going to miss out on the power of being in the present moment, because you are constantly looking forward to when you will be an expert. Because when you say, I have to be an expert first, and then you set this standard of what an expert is, it's kind of like you're also saying, and at that point in the future, when I'm an expert, I will also be X, Y, and Z as part of my real self, or as part of my true calling. So, I'll be more happy when I'm able to step into that role. I'll be more confident. I won't have my insecurities. I'll be more outgoing, or whatever it is for you that comes with being that expert. So what I would love is if you could find a way to incorporate those things into the present moment. So whatever it is that is that emotion that comes to you from being an expert, because it really is an emotion. It's not just being an expert. It's about what that actually will bring you. And I expect that at some extent, or to some extent, it's an emotion of feeling confidence, because really I think that's where that insecurity is getting to, is that you don't feel confident. So when you feel that confidence, I would love for you to just be able to bring that into the present moment, instead of saying that it's going to happen at some point in the future when you finally hit the marker of being an expert. Because the beauty of the present moment is that you actually get to experience it now, instead of constantly pushing that marker forward. So instead of saying you're going to do all of these things in the future, let's do them now, and let's get the awesome feelings that come with that now. And then you can build and you can create this whole future, but you don't have to keep waiting for it. And then finally, you're already enough. So it's not just about the fact that you are putting things off, you're procrastinating, you don't get to experience them, but it's actually also, you're already enough. There's nothing missing. There's nothing wrong with you. You are already enough. You just have to see it yourself. So the type of fear that comes with wanting to be an expert, with feeling like you're not enough, it really comes down to an issue of worth. So if you're not feeling worthy, you're not feeling qualified, and overall you're just not feeling like you're enough, what's really happening is that you're not understanding your own value. And I really want you to get to a place where you can understand your value, where you can see your value. And I know it's there. I know it's there. I just want you to know it's there too. So, how can we fix that? How can we help you see your own value? There are so many ways to do this. There are little practices through your day, and then there are kind of some big ticket items that you can do as well. The first, and this comes up again and again in all of my trainings because I really think it is the foundational piece for so many things, You have to practice unconditional self-love. Your self-love cannot be conditional on when you become an expert. It cannot be conditional on when you become successful. It cannot be conditional on when you stop feeling insecure. Your self-love needs to be 100% unconditional. 100%. It really does. And you can start practicing this no matter where you are today. You really can. Whether you do it through affirmations, whether you do it through just having a conversation with your inner bully to say, like, hey, I see you. I see you're scared. I get it. It's okay. I've got this. And I love myself no matter what the outcome is. No matter what the outcome is, I love myself because my love is not conditional on an outcome. So that's really important. And you can go about that a number of ways. It's also something that I teach in my course that's coming out on Monday, 3 weeks to your true inner self. We go into a lot more detail on practicing unconditional self-love. The second thing that you can do is get in touch with your true inner self. This is so incredibly important. The thing that you need to know is that there is already a version of you who is completely calm, who doesn't live from a place of fear. She lives from a place of love. She has like absolute compassion for everything you're feeling, and she knows your soul's true calling, and she also knows how to get you there. So you really need to get in touch with your true inner self so that you can take the steps that you need to in order to get to the place where you feel like the real you. And again, this is something I go into depth on in my course that's coming out on Monday. It's 3 weeks devoted to getting to know your true inner self. Additionally, we just wrapped up the 5-day challenge in my Facebook group, which will also help you get in touch with your true inner self. And even though the challenge itself is finished, the videos are still going to be in there for a little while. So if you're watching this or you're listening on my podcast, feel free to jump into our Facebook group, the Hidden Moments Lifestyle Facebook group, and just go back and do the challenge yourself. You will see the benefits and you will get in touch with your true inner self. And the third thing, and I think this is really challenging for so many of us, but it's so important, and that is feel the fear and take the leap anyways. I know you're scared. I know you are. And I have been there. I have been there so often, so I get it. I know it's scary to take that leap, but take it anyways. Take it anyways. And it gets easier. The more you learn how to quiet your fear and take the leap anyways, the easier it becomes. And I'm not saying that you'll never feel fear again. You will, but you will get used to how to just work with it and do the things anyway. So those are my 3 top tips for you when it comes to kind of changing your mindset around having to be an expert and not being good enough right now. And as I said, my course is coming out on Monday, so it will be launching, but you can head to the Hidden Moments Lifestyle shop right now. That is at www.hiddenmomentslifestyle.com/shop. And you can check out what the course is all about, what to expect. There's a whole page devoted to the 3 weeks to your inner self course so that you can get a really good idea about what's involved and what the goal is for that course. So I really encourage you to go check it out. There are a couple other courses up right now as well. We have your Peace Out Insecurities course. This is just like a super quick crash course on how to quiet your insecurities and how to break the cycle of stagnation. And I also go into detail about what that cycle is within the course as well. And I also have a brand new Law of Attraction course 101. So that is on there as well. And starting on Monday, you can also purchase all 3 of those courses for a discount. So I really encourage you to check that out. These are the type of courses that can really change your life. If you take the course, it resonates with you, and you really put it into action. So I do encourage you to check that out. And yeah, they launch on Monday. So I hope that this helped. I hope the training helped you a little bit. I hope you're feeling a little bit better about the fact that you are enough, and that you don't have to let your perfectionism or your fear help you stop you from doing the things you really want to do. You don't have to procrastinate. You can do whatever it is that your heart is calling you to do. All right? Until next week, I'll see you. Have an awesome week, everyone.